The Ukrainian mafia is considered one of the most influential among various forms of organized crime. It stands on par with the Russian, Azerbaijani, Georgian, Chechen and Armenian mafias. Ukrainian organized crime groups are involved in a wide range of illegal activities. While the Ukrainian mafia often operates independently, it maintains close ties with Russian organized crime groups. Thieves-in-law of Ukrainian nationality adhere to the same criminal code as their counterparts across the post-Soviet space. Dribny Vladimir Vasilievich Dy Poltava. Vladimir Vasilievich Dribny, also known as Poltava, was born in 1938 in the city of Poltava, Ukraine. His childhood and youth coincided with the harsh times of the Holodomor and World War II. He was first convicted in 1953 for the theft of state property. After serving multiple sentences, he was released in 1966 and was crowned as a vory zakone, thief-in-law. His criminal activities included various forms of theft, armed robbery, drug trafficking and smuggling, and involvement in the shadow economy. In 1989 to 1990, he traveled abroad to Berlin and the United States, likely to establish schemes for transferring funds to foreign accounts. He was later appointed as the overseer for southern Ukraine. Dribny permanently resided in Odessa. In September 2017, Ukrainian law enforcement raided his apartment and confiscated the criminal common fund, which included $1 million in cash, $90,000, 500,000 hryvnias, and a collection of jewelry. It was never determined who among his close associates leaked the information to the authorities. However, Dribny's lawyers managed to compel the Ukrainian police to return the grandfather's seized assets. Now over 80 years old, Dribny has retired from active criminal activities. He occasionally attends coronations, ceremonies for crowning new thieves-in-law, and helps resolve disputes within the criminal community. Vyacheslav Vasilievich Kramarenko, Kramar's Ibes. A well-known thief-in-law, Vyacheslav Vasilievich Kramarenko, was born in 1957 near Kremenchuk. He was crowned a law-abiding thief in 1998 at the age of 40. Over the years, he faced several convictions and served time in various prisons. After gaining the status of a thief-in-law, Kramarenko led an organized crime group that specialized in thefts, robberies and extortion. In 2000, he renounced his title, as he was more interested in business, which true thieves-in-law are not allowed to engage in. By the mid-2000s, he had opened a casino in Poltava and continued to protect local businesses. Kramarenko had a family, a wife and 3 children, and even headed the charity fund Dar, providing aid to the ATO zone. He passed away in June 2017 in intensive care after a serious illness. Sergey Ivanovich Lysenko, Lera Sumskoy. Sergey Ivanovich Lysenko, a Ukrainian thief-in-law, was born in Sumy in 1954. He adheres to the old criminal code of thieves and oversees order in Ukrainian prisons through his appointed watchers in the colonies. Lysenko is also an advocate for the promotion of Caucasian criminal groups in Ukraine. He was crowned a thief-in-law in 1993. While in prison, he often organized acts of defiance. Lysenko lived in Moscow for an extended period and was considered the second most influential Ukrainian thief-in-law during the 1990s. In 2007, he attempted to take control of enterprises in Kyiv's left bank, but returned to Moscow after pressure from the Ukrainian Organized Crime Unit, UBOP. After the death of influential thief-in-law Sergei Mamedov in November 2011, Lysenko took control of the Republican Common Fund. His criminal interests include illegal gambling establishments, the protection racket for businesses, and the trafficking of drugs and weapons. Lysenko holds significant influence in the Sumy region as well as in Kyiv. Andrei Stepanovic Nedzelsky, Nedelia. Andrei Stepanovic Nedzelsky was born in the picturesque Ukrainian city of Lviv in March 1973. In the mid-1990s, he moved to Kyiv, where he began his criminal career. In the Ukrainian capital, he befriended the influential figure Mamed and joined the circle of supporters of dead Kasan. Nedzelsky was entrusted with various dirty tasks, which he performed efficiently. Following Mamed's death in 2011, Nedzelsky's career advanced. In May 2012, he was crowned a thief-in-law and appointed as the watcher for Kyiv and western Ukraine. To this day, he continues to fulfill his responsibilities diligently. Viktor Borisovich Sidorenko, Kukla. A true thief-in-law, Viktor Borisovich Sidorenko was born in Rostov-on-Don in June 1930. His first prison term came in 1947 for robbery, earning him 5 years behind bars. During his sentence, he mastered the thieves' code and committed to it for life. It was also during this term that he was crowned a thief-in-law. Sidorenko's life was a series of prison terms with brief periods of freedom. He was a highly respected, law-abiding thief, whose opinions were valued by both inmates and prison administration. He often resolved disputes and conflicts and played a key role in crowning many respected thieves-in-law. Sidorenko was a staunch nationalist and did not recognize non-Russian thieves-in-law. Kukla lived to the age of 66 but was ultimately murdered in 1996 in Chelyabinsk. Sergey Bondarenko, Utenok. Sergey Bondarenko, of Ukrainian origin, was born in the city of Ukhta, Komi Republic, in 1977. From a young age, he was drawn to the criminal world, showing little interest in becoming a law-abiding citizen. By the age of 16, he left home, joined a local gang, and soon began collecting tributes from entrepreneurs for the Thieves' Common Fund. Bondarenko had an arrogant and ruthless personality, which strained his relationships with local criminal authorities. He narrowly escaped a severe conflict thanks to an invitation from thieves-in-law in Nizhny Novgorod, with whom he had good connections. In Nizhny Novgorod, Bondarenko joined the circles of Wagon and Tulip. In 1999, at the age of 22, he was crowned a thief-in-law by Zakhar Kalashov, Shakro Kurdi, and Vladimir Vagin, Wagon. However, his reign was short-lived. In 2000, a hitman ambushed him at night, firing 8 bullets. Bondarenko died on the spot. Mikheil Dono, Mishka Saik. Of Ukrainian origin, Mikheil Dono was born in Rostov-on-Don in 1924. From a young age, he engaged in theft and petty crimes. In 1946, at the age of 22, he was convicted of theft in Baku and sentenced to 4 years, serving his time in Vyatlag. In 1953, in Saratov, he was sentenced to 5 years for hooliganism and resisting arrest. 2 years later, he received an additional 5 years for theft. Donailo continued his life of crime, and prison sentences for theft and hooliganism piled up one after another. In 1961, he received a 1-year sentence for hooliganism, and in 1962, an additional 3.5 years for the same charge, along with the honorary title of a particularly dangerous repeat offender. In 1965 and 1971, he was sentenced to 5 years for theft, and in 1976, he received another 8 years for the same offense. In 1980, Donailo was imprisoned again for theft, this time for 7 years, which turned out to be his final sentence. In early 1989, he managed to take part in the coronation of Valery Sorogin, Sedoi Kritnik Valerka, but later that same year, he passed away in prison from a heart attack. Arur Eroski, Artur. Artur was born in the Tula region in 1964 but spent most of his life in Ukraine. He grew up in a troubled family environment. His father left early, and his mother, who showed little interest in parenting, focused on finding a new partner. Effectively left to his own devices, Artur spent much of his time on the streets. Eventually, his mother sent him to a special school for troubled youths. At 17, he was convicted for the first time and sentenced to 3 years for hooliganism. He served time in a juvenile detention center and later in adult prisons. In 1986, he was sentenced to 8 years for theft, robbery, and document forgery. In prison, Eroski earned a reputation as an unyielding otritsala, someone who defies authority, and no attempts to break his will succeeded. During this imprisonment in 1992, he was crowned a vory, thief-in-law, by Yevgeny Dmitriev, Genka Aziat. In 1996, Artur was convicted in Odessa for illegal possession of firearms and document forgery and sentenced to 2 years. By then, he had gained significant influence over the Odessa criminal underworld. On his territory, he clashed with Chechen groups which were vying for dominance in the 1990s. In 1997, Eroski was arrested following a bar shootout in which 4 people were killed. Insiders claimed it was a provocation by the police. He was sentenced to life imprisonment. Artur died of tuberculosis in 2014 in a prison hospital in Kherson. Gennady Miroshnichenko, Grachonok. The Ukrainian vory Gennady Miroshnichenko was born in Novoshakhtinsk in 1959. As an adult, he became involved in crime, acting as an accomplice and hiding stolen goods. In 1989, he received his first sentence, 2 years of corrective labor. In 1994, he was crowned a vory. Miroshnichenko was known among his peers as extremely greedy. He collected tributes but failed to send aid, gref, to prisons, instead hoarding wealth for himself. This led to numerous complaints from inmates in prisons and colonies. In 1997, he was sentenced to 5 years for theft and harboring criminals. In 2000, Miros Nenko participated in the coronation of his only godson, Mikhail Platon. By 2007, Miros Nenko had developed a heavy addiction to illegal substances, which contributed to his downfall. That year he received his final sentence, 2 years for drug possession. His drug use may have clouded his judgment, leading him to spread false accusations that a prominent vory had served in the military. For this breach of the code, Miros Nenko was stripped of his vory status. In 2015, Gračanok died after a prolonged illness, with his health severely weakened by his drug addiction. Vadim Fedorenko, Fedora. Of Ukrainian origin, Vadim Fedorenko was born in Pavlodar and spent his life in northern Russia. He received his first prison sentence at 17, serving 1.5 years for hooliganism. In 1984, he was convicted again for the same charge, this time receiving 2.5 years. In 1991, he was given a suspended sentence of 1.5 years for theft. During his time in prison, Fedorenko adopted the vory code and built connections with influential figures in the criminal world. In 1994, he was crowned in Nizhnevartovsk by influential thieves-in-law from the northern regions. In 1997, Fedorenko took on his first and only godson, Alexei Sukach. However, in 1998, Sukachev was part of a group of thieves-in-law who stripped Fedorenko of his crown due to internal conflicts among the vories. In 2008, Fedorenko received his final prison sentence, 8 years for threats of murder and torture. After his release, his whereabouts became unknown.